helpful is just to give a high-level overview of Goodwin House at Home and what the program truly is about. So first of all, there are many benefits and services available with Goodwin House at Home. This program truly, it's a membership-based program and is truly designed to help older adults remain in the home environment of their choice. I think there's three components that are probably the most important pieces of this program that can really help people remain safely in their homes. So the first one is Goodwin House at Home offers built-in care coordination and care management provided by who we call member services facilitators. We currently have 4 of them. They all have at least a master's level in social work. We have one that's actually a licensed clinical social worker, but their role really is to get to know our members, help them develop a long-term plan, and then execute that plan on behalf of our members. And the goal is to ensure our members have everything they need to remain safe, healthy, and happy in their home. The member services facilitators truly are the heart and soul of Goodwin House at Home, and they're just a wonderful, wonderful group of people. The second piece of this program, which I think is really important, is that it acts a lot like long-term care insurance, in that we have 5 flexible financial plans. Each of our financial plans have what we call a daily benefit, and it's a dollar amount that Goodwin House at Home will pay towards the cost of care that our members may need. Goodwin House at Home starts paying for help and support immediately when our members need help with just one activity of daily living. And we classify activities of daily living as bathing, dressing, toileting, eating, and mobility. When our members need one of those, our member services facilitator will coordinate home care aide to come in and provide that support, and then Goodwin House at Home will pay for that home care aide based on the financial plan our members selected when joining Goodwin House at Home. The last component that I think is going to become increasingly important is Goodwin House at Home guarantees access to quality care. Many of you have probably heard about, the population is living longer. We have the baby boomers coming up through the system. I'm actually one of them. I've heard it called the silver tsunami, but this large group of people will be aging in to the caregiving system and will start needing help and support. So it's going to be increasingly important and potentially difficult to receive care and support. I have something on my screen here. I don't know what this is, but so it's going to be increasingly difficult to find quality care when you've got so many people that will be trying to access that care as they age. So those are the 3 main components of Goodwin House at Home. So hopefully that will be helpful to you. Many of you probably have been to one of our informational webinars, and I would encourage you, we do have at least one a month. And if you would like to learn more after this event, I would definitely encourage you to attend one of the events that we're going to have in April. So at this point, I would like to introduce the Goodwin House at Home team. And one thing I do want to say is it is a wonderful team of very committed and compassionate people. And I cannot say enough about how much I enjoy working with the people that are on this team. The first person I would like to introduce is Karen Skeens. Karen Skeens is the executive director of Goodwin House at Home, and she actually helped to develop this program. So she's played a very key role in putting this program together and also the success of this program. The next person I would like to introduce is Shannon Bishop. Shannon is a senior consultant like myself, and we are absolutely a senior sales consultant like myself, and we are absolutely available after this event to talk with anyone that may be interested in learning more about Goodwin House at Home. Next is Katie Ramos. Katie is really the glue that kind of keeps our team together. She does a lot of the webinars and special events. You may have received an email from her or a call from her. So Katie has been with us for a couple of years, and she does a fabulous job. Next, Beth Robinson is the director of our member services facilitators. Beth has also been with Goodwin House at Home since it started. So she's got a long history with Goodwin House at Home and actually a long history with Goodwin House. She used to be the director of social work on the healthcare unit at Goodwin House Bailey's Crossroads for many years. We have Priscilla Laseth. Priscilla has been with Goodwin House at Home for a couple of years. Priscilla is also a member services facilitator. Priscilla, again, also has her master's, and she used to work at Alexandria Hospital as a case manager and is very familiar with the services available in the Northern Virginia service area. Lauren Bradley is another member services facilitator. Lauren has also been with us for over a year, and she brings a lot of experience. She moved from Texas, and she brings a lot of experience with older adults and working in the healthcare system to us when she joined the program. So she's another really strong team member. We have Kristen Salzer, who is our newest team member. Kristen is another member services facilitator, and she came to us from Goodwin House Bailey's Crossroads. She used to be the social worker on the healthcare unit at Bailey's Crossroads, and so has a passion for working with older adults, and also is very familiar with the resources available in Northern Virginia. And last but not least, we have Miriam Witherspoon. Miriam is our marketing associate, and she works a lot with our events. You may have seen her name, and I'm sure you've probably received emails from her, but she really helps us tremendously in putting these events together. So that's the Goodwin House at Home team. Many of you may have evaluated or looked at Goodwin House at Home in the past. And one thing you more than likely have noticed is that our team is very passionate about the program and very passionate about the services that can be provided by this program. But more importantly than what we think hearing from our members is probably going to be a lot more impactful than hearing just what we're saying. So that's why we put together these special member panel events. So this is your opportunity. We'll have a Q&A at the end of this event, and this is your opportunity to ask your questions directly of the membership, some of our members from Goodwin House at Home. Many of you have sent questions in advance, so thank you very much, and we will be answering those questions. If you do have questions during the presentation, and if you're familiar with Zoom, there is a chat box at the bottom of the screen. And we are asking that if you have a question, if you could put your question in the chat box, we will pull that box up and we'll make sure that we can address your questions. We also understand that not everybody's familiar with technology. So if you prefer to just raise your hand, we will have someone looking out for questions as well. So we hope to respond to questions that way. So right now, I'm going to start turning this over to our members and to Beth Robinson, our member services facilitators. Each of our members will introduce themselves briefly, and they're going to talk a little bit about why they decided to join Goodwin House at Home. And first of all, I'm going to start out with Ms. Reva Savkar and Mr. Bob Lozer. They are a couple married together, and they're going to give you some information about them.
Katie, we can't seem to turn our video on. It says the host has stopped it.
Oh, no.
Ah, now we can.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Reva Savkar. I'm a retired professor of chemistry from Northern Virginia Community College. I am an organic chemist, and I taught at Nova. I retired 3 years ago. I taught at Nova for 40 years, 12 years as an adjunct while I was raising my children, and 28 years as a full professor. My husband, Bob, and I got married 6.5 years ago. And my introduction or my impetus for looking at Goodwin House and Goodwin House at Home comes from a different perspective than Bob had, but together we found the best model. I was raised in India, born and raised in India, and each of my parents, they both passed away now, had wonderful round-the-clock in-home care by trained caregivers while they were living in their own home, or in later years, my sister moved them to their home because she wanted to be closer to them. So that model was possible in India at the time. My mother passed away 5 years ago, and it's still there. And I came from that background, and I knew that model. I didn't think that was the model for me here because different circumstances, different living. So we did look at in-home care as well as in living in community. And so we first looked at Goodwin House community and signed up with them actually, and we're still on their priority club. My husband, Bob.
Hi, my name's Bob Lozer. I also retired from Nova, where I was an instructional designer for 29 years. And I retired in 2016, sorry. And my experience, having been single until I was about 65, was a little different from Reva's. I did not have family to take care of me, so I also had a very good example from my parents who moved into a continuing care community in Pennsylvania. And I saw what a good experience they had. My parents lived there for 5 years before my father died. And when my father died, my mother had a caring community there to support her. And she lived another 5 years, and both had very good experiences and said they wished they had moved in earlier to enjoy all the amenities. So I was predisposed toward continuing care facilities. And when we got married, then we started talking together, and our first choice was Goodwin House. And as Reva said, we almost immediately after we got married, got on the priority in the priority club for Goodwin House, Bailey's Crossroads. And then we became aware of Goodwin House at Home, and we both said to each other, we like living at home, and this seems to give us everything that Goodwin House would give us, but we get to stay in our own home.
For us, it was the best of the two possible models. The one I had with my parents, they lived in their own homes, each of them when they passed away. My mother was with my father, my sister in his last moments, my nephew and my brother were with my mother in her last moments. So the best of both models that Bob had and I had were given to us by Goodwin House at Home. And we immediately made the decision to sign up with Goodwin House at Home. And we felt it's the best gift we can give our children. I have two grown children who are, of course, now Bob's children, and we thought it's a gift of love we can give them where they don't have to make the decisions. We have Goodwin House at Home, and on this wonderful team you have met who are there for us and for my children.
Thank you very much, Reva and Bob, and we're very happy you're members of Goodwin House at Home. Next, I have Mrs. Ann Gray. Ann is going to share her story. You're on mute, Ann. There we go.
Yes. So my name is Ann Gray. My husband, Robert, and I have been members of Goodwin House at Home for about 3 years at least. And I must say that I was very impressed with the first couple, Reva and Bob, because they had much to say of what I am also feeling, or that we both feel. This is a wonderful insurance policy for us, and I will go into my background later, but that is just that it is such a security blanket for us that we can live in our own home, which is basically on one level. So we love our neighborhood, and we love being able to participate in the activities in our neighborhood while we still can. And this is also an insurance policy for our children. We do not want to burden them with having to, or even argue about how to deal with various issues, because this can be a divisive thing for a family. So this is the way we looked at it, that it is really an insurance policy. And it is also because we like to travel, to know that whether we travel in the States or we travel abroad, we can access, I mean, more at home here in the United States, but that Goodwin House at Home will facilitate if we needed to return home or something else. So for us, it is wonderful. I'd also like to put a word in for the team. Anything we've had to do with Goodwin House, we have found to be very positive, and we are so grateful to all of you who have made this possible. And I've so enjoyed so many of the programs that Goodwin House at Home offers also online. Now, as far as our background, we've been married 61 years.
Wow.
We met at the University of Michigan. We married in our last semester, and then off we went. Robert was in law school, but he wanted to go into the Foreign Service. So we spent 41 years in the Foreign Service and lived around the world. I was also in the theater, but my career had to jockey between being in the States or in an English-speaking country. So Australia, I worked a lot, and as well as here. Anyway, that's my story, but I cannot say enough about Goodwin House at Home. And thank you for all the programs that you are offering us.
Thank you so much, Anne. That was very nice, a nice story, and we truly are appreciative for you and Mr. Gray being members as well. So the next member we have is Ms. Shelley Johnson, and Ms. Johnson is one of our newest members. And again, she's going to share her story.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Shelley Johnson. I joined in December of 2020 only, so I'm brand new, but I've been hearing about Goodwin House for many, many years. I am a retired Foreign Service officer, and I was in for 28 years, and I came back here and bought an apartment in Arlington because I decided this was going to be my retirement home. I had planned to work a little bit with the State Department after I retired, but my parents got sick. My mother had Alzheimer's, my dad had cancer. So for 8 years, I sort of shuttled back and forth between California and here, helping them out. And when I retired, I would go live with them for 3 or 4 months. They had Kaiser Permanente, and they were issued, or they have the continuing care program, and they had a social worker who would come visit them and sort of take care of them. I tried to get my dad to move in assisted living, but my mother with her Alzheimer's was happy at home. So he waited until she died, and then he moved into assisted living. So I had sort of both worlds. I knew what assisted living was like. I saw what it was like to live at home. And after my parents died, I came home and decided I need a plan. And I started looking at assisted living facilities and geriatric care managers. And what else did I look at? Oh, emergency response systems. And then I went to a retirement seminar put on by the American Foreign Service Association, and they mentioned Goodwin House at Home. And this was about 8 years ago, and I was younger and didn't really need it. And I thought, well, that's nice. That's, I'll keep it in mind. And a couple of years ago, I started thinking about, what am I going to do? I'm single. I don't have kids. I have a chronic pain problem. I'm getting older, a little slower. So I decided to research it more and more thoroughly. And long and short of it is I joined last December, and it's the best decision I ever made. It covered everything that I was looking at separately. So I just decided that this was the thing for me. I did take a tour of Bailey's Crossroads, and I have to say, I was with a friend. We were both ready to move in. And then I got home and thought, oh, I'd have to get rid of this and this. And I thought, no, I want to stay home. So anyway, it was Goodwin House, and they've been wonderful. They've helped me along the way with my application. I've enjoyed the sessions they've had, whether it's teaching something or learning something. And I have to say, one of the most wonderful surprises was I got my COVID shot, which I wasn't expecting to get, for a few weeks or a month or so. So I'm very pleased with Goodwin House. Everybody has been just wonderful, helpful, cheerful, delightful, interesting. It was the best decision I could have made. Thank you.
Well, so much for that. I didn't know.
Thank you so
single-
much, Ms. Johnson, for sharing your story. Next, it's my great pleasure to introduce Beth Robinson. Beth Robinson is, as I mentioned, the Director of Member Services Facilitators for Goodwin House at Home, and she's going to talk a little bit about the role of the Member Services Facilitator.
Well, thank you, Sarah, and good afternoon, everyone. So I see lots of questions coming in through the chat box about a lot of them related to care and care needs. And those are items that Lauren, Priscilla, and Kristen and I are responsible for. Our role is to help you age comfortably and safely in your homes. We do that by getting to know you a little bit better, what you'd like to see happening as you're aging. If you have any care needs, we set up care in your home for you, or if it's at a community, you need to go for a short-term skill stay, and your preference may not be Goodwin House. It may be another community. We are in contact with hospital discharge planners, the communities to help you make sure that you're aging in place. Some of the things in addition to coordinating care is, I noticed a question about additional services. A part of your Goodwin House at Home benefit is that we will refer you to services and we can help coordinate those services. Some of the things like your home maintenance are not covered by your Goodwin House at Home benefit, but we do help in getting those things set up. Part of your benefit is that we have a home maintenance and safety program with a certified CAP, aging in place, or CAP certified provider who will come to your home and assess your home. I think Ms. Johnson just had that service. And so there are so many things that we coordinate, but we definitely want to make sure that you are aging safely and comfortably in your home.
Thank you, Beth. So I know I'm sure that our attendees are interested in hearing answers to some of the questions that have been submitted. So first of all, I'm going to start with some of the questions that we received via the registration, and then I have pulled up the chat feature, and I do see that we do have a number of questions that have been submitted through the chat feature. So the first question is for one of our members, and I'm going to have Anne Gray answer this question. So the question is, why join Goodwin House at Home when I'm still independent, relatively healthy, and don't need services? Anne, you're on mute.
As I had said previously, This is for us an insurance policy, but also for our children. That they needn't be concerned or get into discussions about how to deal with issues that may come up when we need the services. So far, we don't, but it makes us feel very secure. And we have had our house assessed, and many of the things that were suggested have been addressed, though most of them were already addressed before we entered the program. I would be happy to answer any question specifically if somebody has one for me. But for us, we are just very happy that we have joined, because it gives us that added security. And you never know what can happen. That's the thing. You never know, especially I think for people who may be alone, because there sometime you could have something happen. And I know from a lady that had an experience whom we met, who had just joined Goodwin House at Home. And she had a fall outside. And when she ended up at the hospital, Goodwin House at Home was right there as her advocate. And that, she said that she is so grateful that she joined, because they really took, Goodwin House really took care of her.
Thank you, Anne. And the next question that we have, and this will be for Ms. Johnson, Shelley Johnson, is what other options did you consider before joining Goodwin House at Home?
As I mentioned earlier, I looked at, excuse me, I'm sorry. I looked at a variety of options. One of them, my father kept telling me, whoa, you should join Kaiser Permanente, it's all together. And then I found out about their continuing care program for older people, which I thought was quite good. When I came home, I looked at assisted living, independent assisted living. Like I said, looked for geriatric care management. I was just looking for someone that could help me with mostly health issues as I got older. And Goodwin House was really the only one that sort of covered everything. At this stage in the game, I don't want to, I just turned 68. I'm still in pretty good health. And I get out, I exercise every day. I take Tai Chi, I walk 4 to 5 miles a day. But I just wanted that security of knowing that if something happened to me, I have sort of one-stop shopping. Now, I have wonderful friends, and they are on my emergency list, but most of them are younger and work, and some of them are out of the country. So this provided me with everything that I was looking for, not just help in a physical way, but also I had my home safety assessment. For years now, I've been saying I need to take the tub out in the shower, put a shower in. So the safety assessment will, it'll be very useful to me. So I just felt that Goodwin House at Home provided this security, and as Anne said, this insurance for whatever happened. I have the emergency response button, or if I end up in the hospital, Goodwin House will be there, and then I can ask them to call friends, and whoever is available can come whenever they can come. So I find it very reassuring. It is a little early probably, but I thought, well, okay, are you gonna wait until you fall down or something happens? And I just decided to go ahead and get into the program while I'm still in good health and got my little apartment organized. There's some things that need to be changed. and have this sort of backup service. So I'm glad I did it. You know, people say, but why do you need it? You know, you're young, you're healthy. There's nothing really wrong with you. That's not the point. Anne made the point as well that you can slip in the shower or fall down or whatever. So I'm very pleased with it, and I don't regret the decision at all. It's reassuring to know that I have this support for me whenever I need it.
Thank you, Shelley. The next question is for Reva and Bob, and it is your member services facilitator accessible? What kind of relationship do you have with them, and how have they supported you?
We've had 2 member service facilitators, and really the entire team has been available to us. When we joined, Jan Gordon was our MSF, and since last February, I think Lauren has been our MSF. And there are 2 specific incidents that I'm going to refer to, describe, and then Bob is going to talk about some other. 2 years ago in February 2019, long before pre-pandemic, a year before we were traveling in India, and Bob and I, we do travel a lot within the US and in Europe, in India, Asia, and other parts of the world, quite a bit. We enjoy it. We were traveling in India. We'd been there for a month. And on the very last day in India, when we were scheduled to fly that evening to Sri Lanka on a 10-day trip, through that night, Bob and I both felt sick. We had fever, cough, cold, body ache, and we knew we couldn't fly that evening to Sri Lanka. We were going to stay in India because we have family and friends there in India, doctors whose grandparents treated my grandparents. I mean, a long history. But one of the first things I did was sent an email to Jan. I may even have sent it to Karen and Sarah, because they're all, and maybe Katie, saying that this is what had happened. I didn't think that that was something Goodwin House at Home needed to help us with, but I thought it was my responsibility to keep them informed. Less than 10 minutes later, I got a reply back from Jan, very specifically, our member services facilitator, saying she's so sorry, please let us know what she can do while we are there, and what she can do to facilitate things on this end. And within the next 10 days, and we had to stay in India for 10 days, we canceled Sri Lanka, then flew back to the US directly. And throughout that, Jan continued to communicate with us to ask us what, if anything, she could do to facilitate. And she also had several suggestions, which was amazing. The doctors and medical personnel were taking care of our medical needs. Our travel agent was taking care of changing our travel plans, but Jan and Goodwin House at Home were taking care of giving us peace of mind. My daughter did not have to do that. Jan was doing it, and Goodwin House was doing that for us. A year later, last year in July, this is during the pandemic, I had to have immediate surgery on my foot for a tumor that was on the nerve sheath tumor. And my doctor had said I had to be off my feet for 2 weeks, as he said, toes higher than your nose. Well, that meant the care was going to fall on Bob, who had just had cancer surgery and had finished radiation treatment. So immediately we contacted Lauren before the surgery and let Lauren, our MSF, know. She lined up home care, nursing, if and as needed. Because it was a pandemic, neither Bob nor I felt comfortable having somebody else from outside come into our home. And we were conflicted. We knew we needed the care. The care would fall on Bob to take care of my bathing, dressing, toileting, at least till I could figure out how to do it while staying off my leg. And wanting to stay safe, we decided not to use the home healthcare that Jan had lined up, but Jan kept in touch. Lauren had lined up for us. But she stayed in touch with us the day of my surgery, that evening when I was brought home by Bob, the next morning, the next evening, and for the next week, Jan called us I'm so sorry to say Jan, I meant to say Lauren. Lauren called us every day to ask us and tell us if and as needed, she had a home health care person on standby to come and take care of us. We thought that was amazing. It wasn't just professional care, it was professional caring without us having to initiate it. When you're in a stressful situation, like I said, Bob himself was recovering from radiation. We value that so much. The entire team, I mean, Karen and Sarah emailed us, Beth did, Miriam, everybody on the team, but Lauren, we felt went beyond what we thought. We knew she was there when we needed her, but she on her own kept emailing and calling us every day to ask us how we were doing and what she could do to help. And we thank you for that.
That's great. Thank you so much. The next question I have is for Mrs. Johnson, Shelley Johnson. And the question is, why did you choose Goodwin House at Home if you already had long-term care insurance?
I decided that it would be just extra added protection. And you hear these horror stories about long-term care insurance. One came from my uncle, who was 96 at the time, and he fell down stepping out of the shower and lay on the floor for 20 hours. And when I finally got in touch with him again, he was telling me he pulled some muscles, but he didn't break anything, which was amazing. And I said, what were you thinking? How are you going to get up and down stairs in your house? Well, he had a stair lift. I said, well, why didn't you have an emergency response? He said, well, I have one now. But he told me about his experience, and I'd heard it from other people, about that 90-day gap that you have to fill before long-term care insurance kicks in. And mine has the 90-day gap. So I carefully looked at everything Goodwin House at Home offered, and I decided to get the protection. I mean, I've watched friends go through health crises a little older than me and finding caregivers and getting this and getting that. And I just thought, I don't want to deal with that. If I can find a program that will help accommodate everything I need, say in a time of stress or an illness, I'm going to go with it. So I just think that's, it's extra added protection.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very worthwhile.
Thank you. And they kind of complement each other really well.
You do, actually.
Right.
You do.
Yep. So I'm going to take a question here from the chat function, and I think this may be for Beth. But the first question is, for more than 1 year, we've been asking if the diagnosis of inclusion body myositis would disqualify someone from Goodwin House or Goodwin House at Home. Do you have an answer? And I guess that goes back to the medical review process.
Right. So that would, the answer to that is a difficult one because one, I can't speak for the communities because their admissions process is different. But for Goodwin House at Home, not only do we look at just a single medical diagnosis, but we look at the bigger picture of, any co-occurring medical concerns that you may have. So our medical director actually reviews a lot of the medical history, which is a part of the application process. And I see in the chat that you've been asking over a year, but it would be helpful also if we knew other things that may be going on before making that final decision or providing that answer.
Thank you. Here's another one from the chat, and this is for, I guess, all of the members that are participating, but to the Goodwin House at Home residents or members, I understand most of the people are pleased with the program. It sounds so perfect, but are there any cons or anything that needs to be improved that could improve the service? Any ideas?
I'm just going to say that because I'm such a new member, I cannot comment on that. I haven't been in the system long enough to be able to provide any comment.
Okay. Would anyone else like to comment?
Well, one obvious, I wouldn't call it a con, it's a fact of life. It's expensive. And it is something we thought long and hard about. And both Reva and I also have long-term care insurance. I have a particularly, what's called a Cadillac policy. It's also expensive. But we have talked about having both. And I'll tell you, the one that we will drop if we ever do would be the long-term care insurance, because we feel that Goodwin House at Home gives us that plus many other services. So, you know, everybody would like it, I am sure, if it were less expensive. I'm pretty sure that the folks at Goodwin House are working all the time and looking at budgets and looking at ways that they can provide the most service for the least cost. We have had enough experience with Goodwin House to know that that's, they're not in it to make a profit. And so we're comfortable with the cost.
Okay, thank you. The second part to that question that I can answer is, does Goodwin House at Home provide services in Florida? And the answer is this program is portable. So if you join Goodwin House at Home while you're living in Northern Virginia and you decide to transition down to Florida to be closer to kids or that sort of thing, to your grandkids, this program can move with you to other parts of the United States, and your benefits would move with you. And so basically we would pay for any care needs that you would have if you were living, if you needed assistance with activities of daily living, we would pay for those, the care that you would need to provide that type of support. So yes, this program is portable and can move with you. I do have, there's been a couple of questions on the chat about really how does care coordination work, and how does that happen with our member services facilitators. So I was going to ask Beth if she could just talk about any members that you've had experience with hospitalization. How did you become aware that they were in the hospital, and what happened when they were in the process of discharging home?
So usually the way we are contacted by our members when there is an emergency or an event is we have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week member only number. One of the four of us is always on call. So when there's an event, you have access to that number. We ask that you or your family member contact that number, let us know what's going on. If you have a lifeline pendant, which is a part of your Goodwin House at Home benefit, we are notified if you add us to your contacts with Lifeline or Virginia Hospital Center. They have contacted us either via phone or fax, letting us know that you've had an event and you're on the way to the hospital. And then we have hospital staff who will call, they'll say, oh, your senior is here in the hospital. Can you provide any information? We have gone to the hospital to, sit with members to help. But those are the ways that we are notified when there is a concern. Once a member's in the hospital, of course, COVID changed things. So we're not always allowed to come in, but we ask the discharge planners to keep us in the loop, and we contact them to find out when that member is going home, what services they will need, and overall what we can do to help. So usually, because it's all a Medicare benefit, once a person has had a qualifying stay in the hospital, if it is something, a member goes home, they need home health, we provide the number of Goodwin House Home Health for services or any other agency that the hospital doctor may recommend. Or feel is best for that member, or that the member chooses. We do coordinate that. If you need care in the home, we will have someone pick you up from the hospital if that's the preference, or if you're safe enough to transition via a caregiver in their car. And so we just coordinate with the discharge planner while you're in the hospital for whatever needs those are. Of course, if you choose to come to Goodwin House, if you need to for a short-term skill service, we will contact the admissions coordinators at both communities to find out if they have availability, because the Goodwin House at Home members do have priority access just right behind the residents who live in the communities. So we just contact the admissions coordinators, let the hospital discharge planner know, and we take care of the rest in coordinating for you. You're on mute, Sarah.
Phone kept going off, so I was afraid I was disturbing people. So here is a question for members, and this is to the Goodwin House at Home members. Are you planning to move into Goodwin House Independent Living Facility one day? If so, what would prompt you to make that move?
We have given that quite a bit of thought, and both Bob and I have said, as much as possible, we would both like to continue living in our home with Goodwin House at Home. However, when one of us is gone, and unfortunately that's a reality, when one of us is gone, the other one may choose to continue living in our home with Goodwin House at Home, or may want to be in community, be with in residence there, where there would be companionship, maybe somebody to have lunch with, maybe somebody to walk with. We don't know, but we want to keep that option open because we think it'll be, if at all, when one of us is gone and one of us is left, for that person to make that decision. We would like that option to be there.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to, we have probably time for one or two more questions. There was a question here. One of the questions is, can you keep your own doctors? And yes, absolutely, you can keep your own doctors. We do require that our members also maintain health insurance, and health insurance could be Kaiser, could be Medicare, could be Blue Cross Blue Shield. And you are also able to keep your own doctors. I'm just looking through here really quickly to see if there's any other questions that.
Sarah, I
Yes.
believe Miss Johnson had a response to your question.
Oh,
Miss
I'm
Johnson,
sorry.
did you have a response?
I just wanted to say the same thing, that I plan to leave feet first from my apartment if I can. But if I reach a point where I'm debilitated and I need help, I would consider moving in. But I moved to an area which is a walking community. I have 2 movie theaters, not that you can go to the movie theater anymore, but you know, in the future, 5 grocery stores across the street from a library. I love where I live, and I have a great building with a lot of people who are actually aging in place. We have a vertical village. So I'm happy where I am, but if something happens to me, then I would, then and only then would I consider moving into Goodwin House, because I love where I live and I love my apartment. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. So I think at this point, we're getting close to the 2 o'clock hour, but I would like to turn it over to Karen Skeens, our executive director. And Karen is going to wrap everything up.
Well, this has been, I think, one of the best panel discussions that we've had, and a lot of great participation from all of you who have attended with your questions. Wonderful, wonderful questions. I want to thank Sarah for moderating the panel discussion today. And I also want to thank all of you for joining us. We're definitely grateful to the members, Reva, Bob, Shelley, and Ann, for joining us today and really sharing how they came to the decision about joining Goodwin House at Home. And then you've also had the opportunity to hear from Beth Robinson. Beth and I have worked together since 2008 when both of us joined Goodwin House Bailey's Crossroads. And certainly we've worked together since 2014 when we launched this fabulous program. And as Sarah said, you know, and I agree with her, the facilitators in building the relationships with our members, and members do have to be independent, not in need of care at the time they join Goodwin House at Home or in the near future, for us to be able to offer one of our plans that underwrites the cost of care. And really that relationship that the facilitators form with the members, you've gotten some examples today. I used to say early on, it's like having a surrogate daughter. We would have a son if we had a male facilitator, and we hope someday that will happen. But the relationships that I have seen develop over the almost 7 years that I've been part of this program have just been so heartwarming in many ways. And Sarah touched on the importance of having a plan that includes the coordination of care, access to quality care, and that is going to get harder and harder as time goes on. We're already seeing that during the pandemic. And then a way to pay for it. And some of you may have your private long-term care insurance policies. My husband and I bought long-term care insurance before we turned 50, right before we turned 50. And, you know, I was like many other people. We bought that policy. I, you know, said, okay, we've got our long-term care plan put together. I put that policy in the drawer and didn't look at it until we started Goodwin House at Home. And what I realized was, yes, I've got a way to pay for it. But as Shelley said, there's a waiting period. I have to satisfy 2 activities of daily living before the policy pays. And there's no care coordination. And the care coordination is so critical, particularly if you're by yourself, but even as a couple and to the family. And as Ann said, and we have seen this, probably all of us that have been in this field have seen how this can just rip families apart trying to make decisions if the person needing the care has not already made the plan and verbalized the plan. So it's a program that I have been honored to be part of since 2014. And it's really been wonderful to watch the development in a variety of ways. And some of you ask about examples of individuals needing care, and I'm going to give you one quick example. We had not been in operation 6 months, and we probably at the time had maybe 20 members. When one of our members, 5 o'clock the Friday before Easter, called to tell us that he had fallen in his tub the day before, we had offered him the personal emergency response system, which Goodwin House at Home pays for, and he declined it. That evening, the facilitator took him a meal. He was by himself, took him something for dinner that night. He had a dog. She walked the dog, and she made arrangements for a care coordinator to come over on Saturday to assess what his needs were. And he needed some short-term home care, personal care with his activities of daily living. We put that care in, started paying for it immediately. He had private long-term care insurance, and he never met the qualification for his long-term care insurance to pay for his care. And that was our first example of how wonderful this program comes around the member and supports whatever their needs are for however long they need it. This individual only needed care for 3 or 4 weeks. In the last year, with COVID, it's been really interesting. The short-term care needs, we have provided a lot of short-term care needs, like the example that I just gave you. But during COVID, that has declined. And over the last couple of years, because we have members who are aging and the program is older, we have started to provide more long-term care. And we have provided, 8 to 24 hours of care in the home. We have 5 members today that are living either in an assisted living in a community or in nursing. 2 of those members are living at Goodwin House. We have 16 members in total that have decided to move from their home into Goodwin House. The majority of those members are living in residential living. And those 16 members have kept their Goodwin House at Home benefits when they moved. We have an additional 11 members who have moved, most of them into Goodwin House, and they decided to cancel their membership. So when Sarah talks about the portability and flexibility of this program, at the end of the day, it's your life, it's your choice. You choose where you want to live, and you can choose how you want to be cared for. And Goodwin House is on that journey with you. Goodwin House at Home will support your decision regardless of the decision that you make. So I just want to say that I hope all of you will continue to explore how Goodwin House at Home can be part of your life plan. We recognize that everybody's journey is personal, but I truly am confident that with a conversation, we can help you find a path that's right for you. And it may be that you decide not to join Goodwin House at Home or not to get on the priority club at Goodwin House, and that's okay. And rest assured, if your plans change, if you join the program and your plans change like they sometimes do, this program is flexible and it moves with you to your new home or to a life plan community. You heard Reva say, and we have had many members say this to us, that their membership is a gift to their family and to themselves. I used to hear that when I was at Bailey's, when residents would move into Goodwin House. And I've heard it over and over again with members who have joined Goodwin House at Home. And it's also, as Ann says, we also hear what a security and peace of mind this program provides. And as Shelley said, we have had other members to tell us it's the best decision I've ever made. It is expensive, but we all live in an area in Northern Virginia where the cost of care is expensive. And if you needed nursing and you move straight into nursing, on average in Northern Virginia, it's $150,000 a year. So this is not an inexpensive area should you need care. And it's really worth a consideration, in my opinion, to get your questions answered about all of the options available to you. Sarah, Shannon, and I are happy to meet with you, answer any questions that you have, and we thank you for your time.